support Donald Trump for president. He has a well-documented history of anti-Asian racism, referring to his own cabinet secretary, Elaine Chao, as China-loving and Coco Chow. He mocks Asian accents at campaign events. He called COVID Kung Flu, said that Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's name sounds Chinese. Why do you respect a man who doesn't respect you?
Because I don't think those are personal attacks. I don't think that's his true nature of who he is. If I look at,
You think he's pretending to be racist?
I don't think he's pretending to be racist. I just think he's also making statements that he sometimes, I don't believe he knows. I think he talks before he thinks. If I look at, Donald Trump's history of who he is as a person, I feel he's a very strong humanitarian. I feel like this is a man who's been in favor with a lot of people in the past. I mean, I think sometimes we take things, for what it initially is stated. But then if you look at the person who he is, really, I do believe he is a good person.
You support Donald Trump for president. He has a well-documented history of anti-Asian racism, referring to his own cabinet secretary, Elaine Chao.
I'll give you the facts, you tell me. Before the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, Black people were just not allowed to be in public spaces with white folks, not allowed to vote in certain places, getting murdered. Martin Luther King and others paved the way for the Civil Rights Act, and it changed things. And he basically gave his life for it. And the pioneers of the Civil Rights Act, Martin Luther King included, put in the disparate impact standards, which simply put stops institutions from discriminating against Black people in non-traditional ways, right? In non-explicit ways. You can't tell a Black person you don't want to give him a loan because you don't like the way he wears his pants, right? And the protection from discrimination that part of the bill gave Black people has been instrumental in allowing us to access capital, create jobs, and be active members in the American economy. And Project 2025 calls for the doctrine of disparate impact to be ended legislatively. If you don't believe me, that's fine. Go read it. It's in Project 2025, Chapter 3, page 72. Does this have anything to do with Donald Trump? I mean, the other day he said on Truth Social that he doesn't know anything about Project 2025. Well, he doesn't have to. We were already living in phase 1 of Project 2025 because the folks that authored this project were all Trump's staffers. Paul Dance, the main author of Project 2025, was Trump's appointee to the United States Office of Personnel Management. King Cuccinelli was one of the authors of the section on Homeland Security. He was Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security. Trump doesn't have to endorse it. He already had the people who wrote it in power. If you're Black, should you care about Project 2025?
President. He has a well-documented history of anti-Asian racism, referring to his own cabinet secretary, Elaine Chao, as China-loving and Coco Chow. He mocks Asian accents at campaign events. He called COVID Kung Flu, said that Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's name sounds Chinese. Why do you respect a man who doesn't respect you?
Because I don't think those are personal attacks. I don't think he's who he is. If I look at,
You think he's pretending to be racist?
I don't think he's pretending to be racist. I just think he's also making statements that he sometimes, I don't believe he knows. I think he talks before he thinks. If I look at, Donald Trump's history of who he is as a person, I feel he's a very strong humanitarian. I feel like this is a man who's been in favor with a lot of people in the past. I mean, I think sometimes we take things, for what it initially is stated. But then if you look at the person who he is, really, I do believe he is a good person.
One last thing, if there's one thing you can say to Black conservatives, what would that be?
That's a tough question. I think that the one thing that I would say to Black conservatives and even Black liberals for that matter, is that we're all in it together. Even if it doesn't seem like that, I have Black conservative friends that we don't agree on everything or really even most things. But one thing that we can agree on is moving Black folks forward. And even if there may be a difference in our policy opinions, we're grounded in knowing that even if we disagree, we both want to move Black America forward.
Welcome, first of all, everyone, to the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Let It Be Known. We got Austin this morning, which is always a good thing. But
good morning, brother.
So these are some of the things that the supporters of Trump make, right? That guy, all the evidence of racism, all the evidence of him talking so disgusting about Asian people. Oh, but that's not who he is. Out of the heart's abundance, the mouth speaks, Austin.
Yeah, it's almost as if, not just far too many blacks, but Asians and other minority groups are in such denial that they are, minorities, that they cannot comprehend racism that is thrown either directly in their faces or that is thrown in the faces of other folks that are a part of their, racial group or ethnicity. And the guy in Colorado who was being questioned about anti-Asian, comments and racism, clearly by Donald Trump. His only response was, well, Trump doesn't think before he speaks. So that's who you want to have as your president. So I think, again, far too many of us are in denial of the racism in our face. But I tell you what, if he gets reelected, Trump, and I think he stands a very good chance of getting reelected, it's going to become a lot clearer for everyone.
Well, and the other thing is show where Trump has proven to be a humanitarian. This is another thing he said. Has there been any evidence of that?
Not that I'm aware of. And he can't. I mean, even his Trump charity, was proven to be a lie.
Trump University.
Trump University was proven to be a lie. I mean, Donald Trump has always been and will always be about himself, and that is just who he is. And he doesn't, he doesn't deny it. He doesn't. Well, he selectively tried to hide, like you just referenced, a Bridges reference in that clip with the young brother talking about Project 2025. If you go back and look at some of the interviews by Trump administration officials, particularly towards the end of the administration, when they knew they had lost, they started talking about what is now Project 2025. And this time they're going to have if he gets back in, they're going to have the luxury of having the infrastructure in place to implement a lot of the craziness that is spelled out in those 900 pages.
Well, and Project 2025, here's one other note on that. I was reading some more. The more you read it, of course, the more you read, the more you understand, the more you're educated. But women will be forced to carry period cards showing that they are keeping track of their periods, and just like a driver's license. So you get stopped, a woman must show her period card. When's the last time she menstruated? When's the last time, is she missing a period or whatever?
Who cares? Who is interested in that type of personal detail about any woman? But this is what, and folks just need to educate themselves and take the time to read. I've begun reading Project 2025. 900 pages is a lot to go through, but I tell you what, between now and the election, I'm going to go through that page by page and start highlighting and start using as talking points when I'm talking on this show or talking to to my friends and even Trump supporters.
Yeah, it's Michelle says, say what? Let's see, that's the idea. So that's what we try to do. We gotta educate. We gotta let you know what's going on, and that is a part of the idea of controlling women's body, controlling women. Period. That's all a part of Project 2025. So when we start talking about the effects, which will be devastating on Black people, on brown people, but also women of all color. It's going to be, and that's why it's so interesting that you would have someone like a Donald Trump have the support of any woman, white women, of course, but any woman. The thought of them supporting that is really amazing. It's tantamount to Black folks saying, we support Jim Crow, we support slavery, we support the attack on Black Wall Street. That's the same as women supporting Trump. Let's be real.
Exactly. I'm always, amazed when I question, Trump supporters about specifics. And I say, okay, let's take you and I out of the scenario because we're men, we will never have wombs. We don't have one. We never will. Are you comfortable with your daughter or your wife or your mother or your grandchild, your granddaughter, having faced such challenges or facing such challenges down the road because of your decision to support Trump? And you can never, it's a very direct question, in my opinion. And they will sidestep, they will step around, much as their idol, Trump does when he is cornered.
Yeah. It's it is really, really ridiculous that we are talking about, and by the way, we're talking about Trump, but by the way, with all of this nonsense about Biden, about how the Democrats and people like George Clooney and Steven Spielberg and the big donors from Hollywood are asking him to step down. Um, the latest polls, and this is several polls now that have come out uh, this morning, showing that the race is a dead heat, a virtual dead heat, despite the debate. Um, so, what are they doing, Austin? What are the Democrats doing?
We are destroying our own candidate, our own nominee, Joe Biden. We are, we have done far more damage to, in my opinion, to our cause, to our nominee, than in the last 2 weeks, and that by any means was a disastrous debate. We have done more damage in the last, yesterday made exactly 2 weeks since that debate. And by any means, again, it was horrible. It was shocking. It was disappointing. I was stunned. But having said that, I never expected for us to turn, even after that disastrous debate. It didn't even occur to me that the Democratic Party would turn on Donald Trump the way it
Biden.
did.
Biden.
I'm sorry,
Biden.
President Biden. Thank you. The way that it did. Donald Trump did his first, nutsy rally, public appearance in Miami. I think it was 2 nights ago, or maybe it was last night. And it's still, despite the craziness that he was talking, his people are still united behind him. And that's what Democrats need to learn to do. We need to take a page, and we've never done it, but take a page from the Republican Party, from the Trump cult, and say that no matter what, because democracy is at stake, we are going to stand united behind this man. Let's just get him to January 20th at noon, when he and the vice president take the oath of office again, and then we can figure out the future of the party after that. Where was George Clooney? Where was Steven Spielberg? Where were these other, Democrats in the House and Senate who are turning on the president? Where were they a year ago? This is a discussion that we should have had a year ago. For the last 4 years, they have been united with Trump. They were united with him before the indictments. They were united with him after the indictments. They were united, and they stay unified. You know why? Because all that matters by any means necessary is winning the election and further stacking the Supreme Court and further, limiting, women's rights to have abortions and all of the issues that should be important to to all Americans, regardless of your political persuasion. I am so disappointed in my party.
Well,
And I've always felt, Stacey, that yes, at times, many times, the Democratic Party takes the Black vote for granted. I've always felt that. I still feel that. But now, how they've turned on a white man, a nominee, part of Joe Biden's appeal has always been that he's the common man. You know, he's not the elite. He's not a part of the Washington establishment. He's not a part of the Hollywood establishment. You know, all his stories he loves to tell that get tiring at point, but that's his story about growing up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's always been common, everyday Joe, with the stuttering, with all the other issues that we have, with the gaffes. That's always been Joe Biden.
So
And
the
now,
question
you
really,
want to turn on him the way they are?
yeah. Well, the question really now, because mainstream media is not going to let up, and they're going to continue to fan these flames, and you're going to have some Democrats, including Democratic donors, who are going to continue with this. He should step down. He should step down. With all of this, Austin, can he win?
You know, before the debate, in all honesty, I had doubts as to whether the Biden-Harris ticket could win. I had my doubts. I still have my doubts. But guess what? I can't think of anybody else in the party that would give me comfort, that would give me some sense of, relief that, okay, we're definitely going to, we're definitely going to win this. We're definitely going to win this. Democrats and, and blacks and women and too many factions in our party need to be inspired. We need to be, persuaded. We need to be handheld. We need to be begged. And, no matter who is at the top of our ticket, and I have my doubts if it's going to be Joe Biden. I don't see how he survives the next 72, 96 hours. I just don't see how he survives. But regardless of who you put at the top of the ticket, I'm not confident that they can win either.
Wow.
I mean, keep in mind, in 2016, President Obama, which may have very well been a mistake, did not support his own vice president who wanted to run for president. And President Obama talked him out of it because he didn't think he could win. And President Obama led all of us to support Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton ran her typical I'm entitled campaign that she ran in 2008, where she lost to Barack Obama. She ran the very same campaign in 2016 and lost again. Now, yeah, a lot of it was, America's not ready for a woman. She did win the popular vote, so that tells you something. But she should have spent more time in Wisconsin, in Nevada, and in Michigan, and key battleground states. And you cannot blame Donald Trump or his supporters for that.
Well, David Youngblood said he can absolutely win, and David's predicting that he will win. We want to hear from you guys. Tell us what you think. Put it in the chat. Can he win? And if not, who can win in your opinion? Who would you put up if there is a change, and whether or not he could win? Let us know.
And
who are you going to put in the
president to? And let me qualify my statement. I believe that the president can win, but we have to vote, and we have to put aside all of this, nonsense side distractions that the Republican Party and Trump supporters are gleefully watching on the sidelines while we self-destruct. We just have to get out and vote.
Well, here's a question too, though. With all of and this talk about Biden stepping down only happened after one bad debate. It wasn't about his policies. It wasn't about what he's accomplished. It wasn't about his character. Well, on the other side, we've gotten a 34 times convicted felon, someone who sexually assaulted a woman according to a civil jury, someone who has committed massive business fraud, someone who spews racism. Republicans are being openly racist now. He's allowed for that. And now we hear this story, a lawyer who working for a mega church pastor, whom is the spiritual or served as a spiritual advisor to Donald Trump, has accused a 12-year-old girl of initiating inappropriate sexual conduct with him. Robert Morris is the church pastor. Now, he was let go by the church last month. Or demoted anyway last month. It was the Gateway Church in Dallas. Trump's spiritual advisor. Now, these are the people. Look at Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz Look at the allegations that he has. These are the people who are associated with a guy who is a felon, who again has all these charges that he either has against him, has lost, as I mentioned, the sexual assault twice. There's a man who said he can grab women by their private parts. He can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it, which the Supreme Court is telling him, as long as you are president, you can do that. There has been, and continues to not be from mainstream media. Forget about the Republicans. We know that they are total Trump. This is it's a Trump cult. But mainstream media that has gone head over heels attacking Joe Biden because of one poor debate performance. Where are they on these calls for Donald Trump to be replaced? Where are the Republican donors on the cause of Donald Trump being replaced? I mean, 10 years ago, you couldn't do this. I mean, 14 years ago, you couldn't do it. That's for sure. I mean, Trump did it in 2016. But he still, at that point in time, Austin, he wasn't a convicted felon. He wasn't a civilly convicted rapist. And now, and now even some Democratic members of Congress are now highlighting his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein that continues to gain steam now. And yet, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times has gone total MAGA on us. But no one has called for Trump to step down. Oh, we got a lost voice.
That was the clear difference and should remain the clear difference in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. When I say that we need to be united behind Joe Biden the way the Republicans are with Donald Trump, regardless of everything that you just said, I'm not in any way implying, I want to be very clear, that we should support or we ever would support any nominee guilty of one.
Oh, right. No, it didn't come on.
Much less 34. But no matter, Stacey, no matter, Donald Trump is facing an additional 55 charges. And I guarantee you, between now and the start of the Republican convention, I believe it's on Monday, if somehow he were to be found guilty and were to arrive in Milwaukee with 88 convictions under his belt, it wouldn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
It would.
Well, he's going to arrive there with 34 convictions.
Exactly. So with the additional, he is, an additional 18 or 20 women have accused him of sexual assault. Nothing. The evangelical community is united. I mean, these are men and women of God, men and women of, the faith who are united behind him, because at the end of the day, the common denominator, in my opinion, is racism. I think that a lot of the, and I hate to say this about my own party, but I don't care, I'm going to say it. This disgruntlement, this dissatisfaction that Democrats are having with President Biden at the head of the ticket, there's a lot of discomfort within our own party, within the Democratic Party, of having a Black woman in the Oval Office.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's
no question.
Exactly. I think that is some of what we are seeing now. Folks have made the assumption, are making the assumption that the president, will not survive 4 years, because of health reasons or whatever, may need to step down, or God forbid the worst. But, George Clooney, I mean, I'm a big fan of George Clooney. He's a longtime supporter of the Democratic Party. But regardless of who gets in, George Clooney's going to be fine. So he can flip-flop and be comfortable. Well, Steven Spielberg can flip-flop and be comfortable.
It's true. It's very true. Power 96 says that he had to hold his nose and drink 5 shots of moonshine in order to vote for Hillary, but he is voting for Biden and Harris. Yes, he can win. He believes that independence and Black voters will carry Biden and Harris to victory. Daniela Pierre is asking, where are they with the counter to Project 2025? And Michelle says, I am very somewhat skeptical about a Joe Biden win. However, I hope that he does. She says, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, she's older than him. And that's what Maxine Waters' point was the other day. And she says she's older than him and still very much effective. And there are no calls for her to be removed. So it's really, really interesting. You also have the Supreme Court that it's really a Donald Trump court that has wrecked any form of democracy, especially with their latest ruling on his immunity. And now Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has introduced articles of impeachment against Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. This comes as this outright appearance of corruption, anyway, alleged corruption continues unabated. And the latest report that Thomas took a free yacht trip to, of all places, Russia, and a chopper flight to Vladimir Putin's hometown.
I heard that. Wow.
It is amazing that this stuff is going with. You have this independent journalism watchdog, ProPublica, that is revealing all of this stuff. And again, mainstream media only focuses on Biden's too old. And yet, that is the very, very least, Austin, of the problems that this nation, politically anyway, faces.
You know, I have forced myself, and I do it periodically. You know, I will turn on and just listen to News Nation. You know, I think that's the channel News Nation. I will force myself to listen to Fox News and Sean Hannity just to see
Keep
what the
tabs
other
on your
side is
enemy.
thinking. Exactly. You know, the only Fox time my television is turned to Fox is every Sunday morning. I like to watch the Fox Sunday show. I think it's fairly balanced. You know, the news show, and then I'll switch to Meet the Nation, Meet the Press, and Face the Nation. But in watching Fox, Stacey, this week, and I probably watched about 5 or 6 hours of it. When I turned to MSNBC or CNN, I felt like I was listening to Fox because of all of the nonstop coverage, you know, interviewing time and time again of Democratic senators who think that Joe Biden should step down, who are not convinced that he can win. Where were these people? Why didn't anybody challenge him? As the president said in his letter to the House caucus, Democratic caucus on Monday, why didn't anybody challenge him? Why weren't these conversations held last summer?
Yeah.
Some of these very same members who are now turning on the president have had and have far more access to President Biden than at least I do, and probably you to a large degree. And nobody saw signs of this. Nobody saw fit to have these type of family Democratic Party discussions before a month before the Democratic convention and less than 120 days before the election. That's the kind of nonsense that Democrats do to our own detriment.
As Mike B says, they couldn't get January 6th done, so the media is now being used to unseat a sitting president, and we now know Democrats are in collaboration with these efforts. Even the Lieutenant Governor of New York said step down. But look at the other side. We got a clip to show. Look what they're doing. Michael Regan was at the was testifying before a House committee yesterday. Let's take a look.
So ordered.
Mr. Reagan, do you have plans for next year, sir? You have plans for next year?
I have plans for every year.
What's your plans for next year?
Well, my plans are personal.
And I don't.
Well, I'm
and
asking
I
you
don't know
professionally.
Well,
You have plans
I
to
don't, I'm not
continue
obligated
your
to.
battle
I'm
that
not
you're carrying that torch for.
with you just assaulting me and saying I'm un-American.
You think
now
this
want to
was an
know.
assault?
Now you want to know what my plans.
We definitely living in two different worlds.
Oh yeah, we are in two different worlds.
Mr.
There's no
Chairman,
question.
Mr. Chairman,
I appreciate
I have an inquiry.
this
Mr. Chairman,
hearing being
Mr.
convened.
Chairman, I have an inquiry.
Gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Mfume.
I'm going to
I have-
reclaim
I
my
have an
time.
And you have time left, Mr. Higgins. Mr. Mfume.
I have an inquiry of the chair. Mr. Chairman, we disagree on a lot of issues in this committee a lot of times, but we always ought to look and put a stop sign in front of ourselves when we start assailing by name the personal integrity of any witness. I mentioned this a few weeks ago with Mr. Fauci. It continues to happen. I want to make sure I'm on the record so that members of the committee on both sides of the aisle will at least respect the personal integrity of a witness before this committee.
The chair recognizes Mr. Higgins for his final few
Chairman,
seconds.
this is the Oversight Committee. This is where government is forced to sit in front of Congress and be held accountable for their actions.
Mr. Chairman,
That
isn't the
reflects
gentleman's time
of
up?
personal
Isn't,
integrity. That's
Mr.
not my
Chairman,
problem.
but
It's
Mr.
not,
Chairman, I
it's
yield.
not the McCarthy era.
Gentleman,
It's
yields
not
back.
the McCarthy committee.
Order. Chair now recognizes Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and there, I don't know if we have the other clip of Michael Regan with the bumbling idiot called Lauren Boebert, but that was they also had to teach her a lesson as well. And Michael Regan was right. I mean, this guy, the racial, that was just dripping with racism right there. People say, well, he didn't use the N-word or he didn't say this or that. You don't have to use certain phrases or words to show how racist you are. And this guy going after Michael Regan and then gonna have the audacity to ask him his plans. Let's take a look at this one too.
I'm asking
This
about
is
the
just-
EPA, and I'm asking about your rogue bureaucrats that have enacted these unconstitutional regulations. Are you going to repeal them? Are you going to continue to implement them, or are you going to stop altogether since it's been overturned?
Do you understand the ruling?
Do you understand
I
the ruling
do.
of the Supreme Court?
I do. And so your question is ill-formed. No,
Will you
we're
be
not
repealing?
we're not gonna stop.
So you're
We're-
going to unconstitutionally continue with
We're
these
going to
rule
adhere.
makings
We're
in
going to
the-
adhere
in
to
the
the
EPA.
Supreme Court and continue to
So
do
which
continue to do
rulemakings
our-
are you going to roll back?
We're going to adhere to the Supreme Court and continue to do our work in accordance to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court
So which
made a
ones are you
ruling-
going to repeal?
The Supreme Court didn't tell us to repeal anything.
They have been deemed unconstitutional.
No.
Absolutely, they have. This was a huge victory.
Mr. Regan, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I would just like to clarify a few things for my colleague from Colorado. The Loper-Bright ruling, as you know, said that the courts should not defer to agency rulemaking if a statute is ambiguous, and instead the courts get to determine whether or not what the statute means. Is that your understanding as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that would not require any regulations to be reversed or overturned, correct?
Correct.
I mean, I think she does better sitting in the dark movie theater groping her boyfriend than she does at anything else. It's absolutely absurd. Richard Nixon signed the recertified that has to go through Congress. It is a Congress thing, and the Supreme Court did not tell them to repeal anything. But here's the part to really watch. Again, we talked about this a few weeks ago. A lot of people are not really paying attention to this, is that Chevron decision where they didn't tell you to deregulate anything or to repeal anything. What they have done is they have taken and reduced these agencies to just suggestions, not making rules. So the FDA now can no longer tell McDonald's to, hey, cut down on the salt. or tell a restaurant that we're giving you a failing grade for cleanliness or how you prepare your food. In other words, you can serve. Somebody asks for a well done steak, you can give it to them raw and tell them it's well done based on the new Supreme Court's decision. And that goes with health situations and everything else, all of these regulations. Education is part of that. People pay attention. I mentioned this before. The Chevron decision is a major, major decision that was made. And again, it's part of Project 2025.
Exactly.
It's all product. And that's why I say that Project 2025 is being implemented as we speak. And so if you allow Donald Trump to get into office, the full-on weight of Project 2025 is going to hit like a ton of bricks. There's no two ways about it. And yes, Power 96. I remember well, who doesn't remember well, just recently when 50 Cent posed with pictures with that Lauren Boebert and referred to her as something along the lines as I'm paraphrasing, good looking or whatever, the best looking thing in the White House. She's not in the White House. He wasn't in the White House, but that was his phraseology for that. But when the caption could have been the most despicable thing, she's running neck and neck with Marjorie Taylor Greene as the most despicable thing to come out of Congress ever. And we're talking about going back, Jim Crow and beyond.
And Stacey, if we think back to 30 years ago when Newt Gingrich took over the Congress and the Democrats were swept out of the House, he campaigned on a contract with America. And some of the origins of what we see with this Project 2025.
Harris District got about 1.6 million in EPA grants.
I think we're ready for a great Jasmine Crockett clip. You can never go wrong with a Jasmine Crockett.
Jasmine, always on point.
Always. So Greer, whenever you're ready, we can run that if you want to.
And and if you listen to the congressman and listen to the congresswoman, trying to we have it here.
Where this money is going from this administration. Rep. Jordan's district got 500,000. The chair's district got about 1.6 million in EPA grants. Rep. Green's district got 500,000. Rep. Luna's district got 300,000, and Rep. Perry's district got $1 million. So for Republicans that may feel a way about EPA and it allegedly pushing a woke agenda, I just want to know, can we get the money back?
It's that on point, because they're pushing this and that, but not giving the money back.
No, and like
they're reaping what the Biden administration has done.
Exactly. And what the Biden administration started doing, I haven't seen them do it in a while, but I know at one point they started calling out Republican members of Congress all across the country who voted against the president's infrastructure bill, but were there for the, with the courtesy, photos of, digging in the dirt with the gold shovels, symbolizing an infrastructure project that is being commenced in their respective districts precisely because of the president's infrastructure bill. If I could just go back, Stacey, when you showed the Congressman Regan and Congresswoman Boebert, that's what they do. When you confront them with facts, they take from the Donald Trump playbook and try to overtalk you or try to shut you down by speaking louder. But facts are facts. And Congresswoman Boebert did not have her facts straight.
Never does.
Never does. Never does.
Never does.
And Greer put in somewhere, I was just reading about 10 to 15 minutes ago, how Republicans are more outward with their racism. She is so right. I think I heard that, wasn't a member of Congress, Stacey and Greer, or someone referred to Vice President Harris, who was a member of Congress, as the DEI vice president.
Someone on Fox News, I think it was a Congress member on Fox News. I don't remember who, but what that takes me to is, of course, the New York Post's headline a couple of weeks ago that was really, or a week or so ago, that was really disgusting. And I love the fact that Joy Ann Reid not only ripped the New York Post to shreds on that, but she ripped the author of that article. Like, who are you? Where have you been? Joy is another one who, she's not a lawmaker, but she's a host of a show on MSNBC. But she and Jasmine Crockett are cut from the same cloth. And the great thing about Joy Ann Reid is that she among the great things is that she tells it exactly like it is, and she speaks facts. She only presents facts. And working for that network, any of these networks now, makes it harder and harder. We've seen Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and people like that go on, Brian Stelter, go full MAGA on us. We've seen them support. I mean, George Stephanopoulos walking down the street looked like he was doing some exercise, and for him to even make a comment as if it's all about him, about the president, is disrespectful, and it shows that once again. See, this is where privilege sets in. You said it earlier about George Clooney, about Steven Spielberg. This election is not going to effectively change their lives. It's not going to really. They have that privilege. They have that double privilege, if you will, the fame and the white privilege to go along. Fame, money, and white privilege. So they have triple threat. So this is not really going to affect them like it's going to affect everyone else. George Stephanopoulos fits that bill as well. This is not going to affect him. So here's the thing: shut your mouth, do your job, keep getting your millions, stack your millions, and stop being selfish, because it's selfishness.
I'm a big fan of Joy. I first met Joy when I was working with the Congressional Black Caucus Institute. Don't profess to be close to her, but I kind of know Joy. But even I have been disappointed with Joy and with some of the other hosts on MSNBC and definitely CNN, because I think they have just been giving far too much oxygen to questioning, folks who are questioning Joe Biden's ability to be reelected or his ability to survive. I just think that MSNBC and CNN, including Joy, have given far too much oxygen to this story. I was watching, what's the show that's on Sunday morning with Alicia Mendez and Michael Steele and what's our sister, Simone. And at one point, the only person on that show who was defending Joe Biden was Michael Steele, the former chair of the Republican Party, saying that what the Democrats are doing is obnoxious. It's crazy. You all are only hurting yourselves.
Yeah. I love
Roland.
what
I saw this by Roland.
Yeah, there's Roland, but I was also thinking too, along the lines of what you're talking about with these news outlets. Keith Olbermann, he's the former MSNBC host, former ESPN host. He tweets that if you're wondering why CNN, Dana Bash, and Jake Tapper tanked for Trump in the debate, and why CNN did the Trump infomercial town hall last year, you remember that, right? That whole Trump infomercial. He posts this. He says, when asked about the upcoming presidential election, the CEO of CNN's parent company, David Zaslav, said this. He said it mattered less to him which party wins, as long as the next president was friendly to business. He says, we just need an opportunity for deregulation so companies can consolidate and do what we need to be even better. So that right there is what it's all about for these folks. Yeah, David, Keith is correct. That's what it's all about. It's the money, the power, and of course, the freedom to be as racist as you want to be.
Yep.
That's the three things that's all about.
Yep. Jake Tapper and Dana would have never been that docile and weak on their respective, platforms. But because this was an even bigger global platform, moderated for a presidential debate that was seen around the world, their bosses told them to shut it down. And we know that Trump was pleased with both moderators, because this is the first debate that I'm aware of, certainly presidential debate with Trump, where he did not personally attack either or both moderators.
Right.
You
Right. Because
recall
it
that
was all a setup.
on the first,
All of what it is.
exactly, in 2016, when what's the sister, the lady, not the sister, the lady on Fox, he was so annoyed with her that he questioned whether she was on her menstrual cycle.
Isn't that something? That's where it has all come down to, right? That's what it's all come down to. It's it really is a shame, Austin, what's going on. But we're gonna switch gears before we yeah, well, he's showing that right now, but the lawmakers calling for Biden to step aside. Think about those before we move on. Those prominent ones that are calling for, including, as someone mentioned in the chat, the Lieutenant Governor of New York has now joined that call. First of all, the faces are familiar as far as the color of their skin. Again, these are folks who they have no real skin, as if you will, in the game, and as far as having much to lose, right? What some folks have is their lives on the line, their livelihoods on the line, their freedom on the line.
And if those Democrats who are calling for the president to step down because they don't think he can win, well, let's each of them look at their own respective districts, or in the case of a senator, his or her own respective state. If your poll numbers are showing that you are going to lose, then why don't you step down? Why don't you step down for the sake of the party and identify another Democrat who stands a better chance of winning in November? Why are you holding President Biden to a higher account than you are yourselves?
See, that's just it too. At this point, again, I invite the viewers to tell us who would you think would have a better chance at winning right now, given the time, given the fact that they would have to raise money, et cetera, within the next couple of months. Who would win? I mean, if you had this argument a year plus ago, maybe even a year ago, if you talked about replacing him last July, that's fine. Now that individual, whether it's Gavin Newsom, Wes Moore, whether it's the vice president, they have an opportunity to put together a coalition and hit the ground running. You can't jump in. Independents do this sometimes. They jump in at the last minute, and of course, it's just they get a few write-ins, they get a few votes, but you can't win an election by jumping in at the last minute. It's not going to happen. The other side has their machine in place. They've been operating for a couple of years now. Power 96 says, if I were Biden, after I win, I wouldn't give any of those networks one interview. And that's the thing, too. They keep going back to the well over and over again. I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and this has been my mantra, my belief, my firm belief. And it goes to presidents, Biden, Obama, celebrities, and anyone else who looking for that big interview. They want to go to Gayle King, or they want to go to Dana Bash or someone like that, a big name on CNN or whatever. My argument is this: you will get the same audience if you went to a high school podcast, because everybody wants to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And other outlets will pick that little podcast up. So what I'm saying is, this seeking out the mainstream for interviews or whatever, or granting them interviews, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can go to the New Pittsburgh Courier. When the vice president sat down with the New Pittsburgh Courier a couple of months ago in their office, it made huge news.
Exactly.
Not just in the black press, not just at the Pittsburgh Courier, but everybody in every outlet was talking about it.
I
So
remember.
Go ahead.
I remember, Stacey, a couple of days before the NMPA meeting in Baltimore a few weeks ago, your expression, and rightfully so, frustration that the president's schedule had been released for the week, and the schedule confirmed that President Biden was not coming to speak at the at our dinner out of that. I guess it was on Friday evening,
Right.
and you were rightfully expressing frustration. And I guess the reason given was, debate prep. Well, hell, the way the president performed in the debate, he may as well have been at the conference for the entire week.
Right, for every session. Exactly.
And if I can say this, Stacey, if we think we have a problem now, and Joe Biden Joe Biden decides for the good of the country, whatever, that he's going to step down, and this party sidesteps Kamala Harris, this problem.
Yeah, that'll be the end. That'll be the end of that constant black support. That's for sure. Donnell Suggs wants to make sure that we mention that the same thing happened when the vice president recently sat down with the Atlanta Voice for an exclusive one-on-one, and he's right. Same thing. So this idea of having to go to the Washington Post or the New York Times, which again, I'm like Power 96. There's no way I would grant them anything resembling an interview. We have other outlets that are maybe not so prominent, but will give you the same prominent attention. It will result in what you get, and probably even come off a lot better, because certain things that they want to harp on, sure, we will ask the age question, sure, but more importantly, there are many, many, many more important questions than the age thing. Because look, as the man said himself, and look, I'm not here to tell people what to do, how to do it, voting, this and that, but the man said it himself. Look at his record. Look at, if you're going to make a decision, make an informed decision.
And guess how old he was. And guess how old he was when he made this record? 79, 80, and 81. By any stretch of the imagination, a senior citizen.
Once again, there you go. And the accomplishments, the accomplishments are vast. There are a lot of accomplishments, something that we still don't know what was accomplished from 2017 to 2020 or 2016 to 2020. We have no idea, because guess what? There was nothing accomplished. There was nothing accomplished except for the continued rise in racism, the continued rise in hate, the continued dismantling of constitutional protections that Black and brown people and women enjoyed, eroded for those 4 years. Eroded. The first thing this man did when he took office, on Inauguration Day, he signed a series of executive actions to overturn the hateful stuff that the previous administration had done. The first thing, he sat there with a pen at the Capitol and started signing away.
That's right.
So it's nonsense that we are even having this conversation. It'd be one thing, as D.L. Hughley, said, this guy doesn't even have a vice president, because why he doesn't have a vice president? And in the words of D.L. Hughley, because he tried to kill his last vice president.
I saw that.
That's why.
True.
And it's a true story. It's not. That's not a joke. It sounds funny, but it's true. They had the noose ready. They had it ready.
And the first time in history a vice president has not endorsed the president that he served.
100%.
But Stacey, those of us, and you in particular, and others who are, prominent in, Black media, if Trump gets back in, mainstream and Black and other media outlets, it's going to be a different ballgame. For the first time in our lives, we're going to have a president who may try to jail journalists who do not agree with him. I mean,
And
this
Chip Roy,
is,
look,
this
Mike
is how
V.
transformative a second Donald Trump term will be.
Yeah. Mike V reminds us often, and we know this well, you know this well, that Congressman Chip Roy said that Republicans had not passed any meaningful legislation from 2018 to 2022. And what you're seeing is these presidents, 8 presidents have died while in office, and the VP stepped up to serve. And of course, Lincoln is on that list, Garfield, McKinley, Roosevelt, and of course, Kennedy is on that list as well. William Henry Harrison, Zachary Taylor, and their vice presidents had to step up and serve. And that is the fear, as you articulated earlier, that even some Democrats have, because they just don't want a Black woman in that office.
Yep.
They just simply, and that includes a large part of Democrats. Michelle, we are so glad to bring you information, and we're so pleased that you allow us to bring you this information daily. We are the Black Press of America, and we have to speak truth to power. Fresh off being, we're going to switch gears before we close because we got to talk about this a little bit, Austin. Fresh off being named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, Chicago Sky rookie forward Angel Reese continued her historic double streak with while she helped her team to victory. She recorded her 14th straight double with 11 points and 13 rebounds. She also added 2 assists for good measure, 3 steals and 3 block shots. You talk about an all-around game.
Superstar.
And now, of course, the detractors say that with 6 seconds left in a game that was already pretty much decided, she got fouled, and that's how she went to the line, and that's how she was able to get her double. Well,
So,
she had to make those
so
free
what?
throws.
So what? So what?
Right.
I mean, this double standard, even in sports, we're held to a higher standard. She was fouled. The rules say when you're fouled, you go to the foul line.
Right. Because generally, with 6 seconds to go and a game out of reach, because it really was out of reach, the opponent, both teams, just okay. We're just going to walk the ball up. That's it. Well, but here's the great part about that. Her teammates. See, we hear so much about the other girl, Caitlin Clark, and what we hear is that she has not shown herself at all to be a great teammate or a good teammate. Her teammates recognize history, and so they thought, okay, let's get her the ball. Let's get her the ball because we want her to have an opportunity to create history. And this is the play right here in which she was fouled, and she was absolutely hammered. They wanted to get her the ball, and then she still had the responsibility of making that free throw, which she did. So she earned it. This was not in any way a gift. She earned it. And I'm hoping that she gets a double for the rest of the season.
Exactly. And let's continue to hold this young sister, to raise this young sister on our shoulders, despite her, racist detractors trying to destroy her.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that to anybody, much less a young person.
And she's done this as a rookie.
Yes.
As a rookie. And which I tend to agree with what Power 96 is saying. He believes that her double record will remain intact for at least 20 years. Because it's such an incredible run of basketball here. And for anybody to even call into question who's the rookie of the year, it shows that you're not looking at basketball, you're looking at something else. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So Austin, I know you're a huge women's basketball fan. But we appreciate you as always jumping on.
Absolutely, anytime.
When I come down from being a mile high and back into you guys' domain in the realm out of the Twilight Zone, I'm gonna tell you something. Let me tell you something about Denver. this is a true story, folks. I was telling my wife this. It's a true story. I've been here 4 days, 5 days, 4 days. I have not seen, whether black, white, Hispanic, or anything, I have not seen one good-looking person. I hate to say it. Not one. Not one. Where do I find them? Now, I've been downtown here. Well, I've not seen one good-looking person. I've seen some, okay. But I've seen no good-looking people. This is foreign to me. New York, you see them every other second. DC,
Well,
you see it every other second.
I mean, it is 5:30 a.m. out there, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so
No,
maybe
6:30.
Okay, you're 2 hours behind. So
Yes.
maybe look later in the day. I hope.
Oh, I've looked day, night.
I know you're gonna
that song say you got me working day and night. I mean, oh my gosh, what is going on here? Carmelo Anthony lived here for years. What's going on, Carmelo? I got to talk to him. He must have struggled here. Oh Lord,
You were
this
hilarious.
is impossible. I saw a stadium full of people when I was coming in, and there's a lot of people, thousands of people. I'm telling you, now I have not seen a good.
Stacey, you're hilarious, brother.
It's killing me. It's killing. I got to get home.
When do you return?
Friday. I'm on the plane Friday. I gotta get home because that's all I have at my house is good-looking women.
Good recovery.
That's all I have.
Good recovery.
I can't offer you anything less than that.
Hey, how's Aunt Pam?
Aunt Pam, I was just talking to Aunt Pam the other day. We did a Zoom, and in fact, no lie, I think she is. Mike B says #petty. Yeah, I'm petty. Greer calls me that all the time, Mike. No lie, she says say hi to Austin. See, Aunt Pam said say hi to Austin. We did a Zoom with Aunt Pam just the other day. So she was drinking some wine and she was having hot flash. So she was burning up. Oh Lord, I'm telling Aunt Pam, she was burning up. But yeah, I got even like the only reprieve I get, like when we come off the air, I get to see Greer. That's it.
Yep.
But that's on screen. She said Austin's kind of girl. Who, Aunt Pam or Greer? Which one?
I knew Greer was going to respond like in the show before Greer goes on the attack.
No, Aunt Pam is a married woman, so there you go. But Austin, so if you misbehave, we got to do this to Barrington too. Anybody who misbehaves in a bad way gets sentenced to a week in Denver.
I will be on my best behavior.
Yeah, listen, let me tell you something. I'm going out to dinner tonight, right? And I'm going out with the gentleman I'm writing the book with. We're going to this restaurant he wants me to go to, whatever. So I'm going to go, and maybe at this place, maybe I will spot somebody, and if I do, I'm going to go up to that person and tell them that they have totally saved the week, and I'm going to tell them why, because this is nonsense here. This is some, as Bernie Mac said, this is some old bull.
I will be listening as I always, trying to let it be known tomorrow morning. And
Yes.
I want to hear your update, Stacey.
I will give you an update, and we will give you all the update on the latest news tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you then.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier.